recruiting. So anytime you start at Aerotec, you start out as a recruiter. And pretty much your day-to-day is you are sourcing through resumes, putting up job postings, doing whatever you can to find people who are looking for jobs and jobs that, or candidates that are going to fit the openings that you currently have. So most of the day you're trying to make as many outbound calls as you can, roughly around like 50 a day, and you just want to talk to people, get their goals, skills, and interests. All of our roles are long-term, so it's not something to where you're just going to get thrown in and hope you stick, and if it doesn't work out a week later, we're going to put you somewhere else. Everything is contract to hire or direct placement, so my main job as a recruiter is to figure out where you want to go, what parameters you have in a job, meaning like the location, the shift, the pay, and I'm going to do my best to set you up for that opportunity.
Yeah, it's
Sarah,
important.
should we ask questions now, or should we wait for the Q&A session?
If you have a question now that makes sense for what we're talking about, ask it now. Go right ahead.
Okay, well, I've got one. So, which is the more common, does Aerotec seek out positions and people independently, or how does?
Yeah, great question. So that goes into the account management side that we're talking about. So you start as a recruiter, and as you move up and you perform at a certain level, if our business is growing, we actually have account management positions, which are essentially the people that are managing their recruiters. They're the ones who are basically in a sales role. They're going out and finding our target companies that we're trying to find business from based off of the top skill sets that we typically come across and recruit on. And based off that, we're trying to set meetings. We use Salesforce, which is like that platform for pretty much anything business related. It's the biggest networking tool that we have as far as learning more about the companies that we're seeking to find positions for. And you know, same deal. It's essentially the same job as a recruiter. You're making 50 outbound calls a day, but you're doing it to target companies from an account manager standpoint. And you're like, hey, you know, let's set a meeting. What are your guys' needs right now? What does your business look like on a yearly basis? Are you guys hiring more at this time of year? Is it steady? Are you guys project based? Do you guys have steady work year round? You know, what does your staff look like? How much of it are permanent employees? How much of it are temporary employees? How much of them are actually outside contractors? You know, we try and get as much fact finding in on them as we can. And then we turn around and try and find the pains of, you know, what's working well and what could be better. And then we try and really hone in on the pains and how we can be a solution to them. So we do actively seek positions. Now when we have companies that we work with that we get service agreements in place with, you know, we'll check in with them if we don't hear back from them for a while to see if they're hiring and if they have any needs. But typically the ones that we're successful at placing good people with, they'll call us all the time to let us know, hey, I've got more openings, send people, I need them yesterday.
So I think the answer I heard is that you're like a full service matchmaker. You not only would answer a call from anybody in this room saying, hey, do you have any jobs for me? Any companies looking for someone with my skill set? But there could also be a company that calls you saying, I want to hire somebody, and would you help us find a candidate? So
yeah, we certainly, if they're calling us asking for that and we don't work with them, that is a slam dunk. We love that because typically with the costs associated with staffing, most companies are really weary and they don't want to admit that they need our services because there is a cost associated with it. But you know, that's part of our job from a sales standpoint is to talk about, okay, well, yes, we are costly for what we do, but what is the cost of not using us and utilizing us to find the right people for you? What is that? What is the impact of that on your business? Let's focus on that before we talk about how much it costs for us to find you, because we don't charge our client companies for any services until they hire one of our people. Like, it's all free until we put someone in front of them that they're like, okay, this person's worth it. Like, this is something we're willing to pay for this person. So,
thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Is there any other questions on that? We could also talk about, one thing I also want to do is focus on the divisions in our local office, where we talked about like the main skill sets that we employ. So I was gonna let Mike kind of go through that list, and I think he actually passed out a sheet that shows some of that, so he'll go through that in a little bit more detail for you guys.
Sure, so some of the main areas that we focus on, so I myself, I recruit for our commercial and manufacturing, which is any sort of like company that's making some sort of product, and then obviously once they make that product, they're responsible for distributing it out. So it could be any sort of like assembler, a production worker, someone working inside a warehouse. But outside of that, we also have a big engineering, which is obviously anything from entry level up to your senior folks. We're big in the shipyard with ship repair and ship build, which is most of your skilled trade. So like your welders, your ship fitters, electricians. And then we also dabble in the professional services, your administrators, both on the healthcare and more like your retail side. And then we get into Tori's area, which is more the construction management and the like project managers. You want to tell a little bit about?
No, so on my side, we kind of lump construction services into one. We just differentiated it because we're growing so rapidly. But we have construction management, so anything like project managers, superintendents, construction admin, like project management assistants, project engineers, anyone who's kind of there in a managerial role, anything dealing with new property development. We do that, commercial, residential, government. Government's huge here in our local area. And then we also do skilled trades on that side as well. So, you know, electricians, plumbers, HVAC technicians, sheet metal, carpenters, insulators, all kinds of different skilled trades, and all the way down to general laborers, just, you know, that $10 an hour guy who's there to be your muscle on the site for things that need to be done, picking up, putting down. We cover the board. We also do accounting and finance. There's another division of us that focuses specifically on accounting and finance as well. That's growing pretty rapidly in our area. And no, I think that pretty much covers the board about it. Yeah. Any questions on that? I know it doesn't necessarily apply too much to your guys' majors, most of what we typically employ. But you know, it's one thing I will tell you is that in a lot of different industries, you know, when we look at resumes, the degree earned doesn't always match the jobs that they've worked in their career. So that's something to keep in mind. It's, I didn't expect to be at Aerotec when I left business school, but here I am. I'm enjoying it.
So I think we represent a niche, but I've had a couple of calls, you know, Madison, and so I know you guys are hiring from time to time. You've got a business or government agency that's looking for environmental folks.
To go through that example, like I said, we are growing rapidly. Our office actually won Office of the Year last year because we're growing and we're kicking tail right now. There's just so much business coming in. Our area is growing rapidly, but we are trying to differentiate as much as possible so that we can create opportunities for folks with your guys' skill sets and degrees as well. We were looking for, and this is not something I recruit on often, and it took me a while to find the right individual for this, but it was an environmental scientist who actually had experience in more of a construction realm, working for companies, and what they would do is they would send this person out on site ahead of construction to actually assess the environmental viability of the site that the construction is going to be built on, and to make sure that the soil was up to standards and that there wasn't any type of environmental concerns to people or the animal and plant life around it. And then they would also be involved in that all the way through the construction process to make sure that whatever work was being done wasn't having a negative impact on the environment. So there are ways that your guys' degrees can be utilized outside of what you would typically think your normal career path would be. It's not something that we recruit on a whole lot, but we are trying to create more of those opportunities with those companies so that we can be a better resource for folks in your guys' fields as well.
And on my side of things, for like the manufacturing, I've seen quality assurance positions come about. We work with the company, and what they do is they manufacture these industrial pumps. So if you ever seen like the big farms where they have all like the sprinkler systems going down and they push out that feed, making sure that before those pumps go out to those farmers that whatever's going to be put out is correct. If there's any sort of filtration process, make sure that once it goes through that filter, that product coming out is, what it's supposed to be. So just something else to keep in mind.
Yeah. And then, other than that, we really just wanted to take the rest of our time here to kind of focus on the services that we provide to our candidates. We do really pride ourselves in being very thorough to make sure that when we get to our clients, when we bring candidates to our clients, that we found the right people, or we've really honed in on what they're looking for. Obviously, they have to make that final decision after they interview a candidate if it's the right person for them. But that being said, we really do try and vet them through a process to where we know we've honed in on what they're looking for. And then we also, on the candidate standpoint, we really try to give them the best shot of getting that position. We work with them through the resume. We don't just ask for resumes and go give it to the client. We look at it and we say, all right, what do we like about this resume? What do we not like about it? And we coach them on it. And then we try and help them build it up to something that we think is actually going to pop and be something that would actually make or break their opportunity for an interview, right? And then if they do get an interview, we actually go through an interview prep with them. We'll try and get them on the phone. If we can't get them in person, we'll get them on the phone for 20 minutes, and we'll talk through, what have they done to prepare, what they can do to prepare, and we can go into that into some more detail so that we can. I know that you guys are getting to that stage where you're getting ready to get out there in the workforce.
What's that interview to get in to see you, correct? Pretty nerve-wracking, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yes.
So, just to make sure I get this right, so the business model is in part that you guys are compensated when the marriage works, when a candidate is found. So it's important for Aerotec, it sort of makes you a partner with the candidate to get the job, because you both will gain if the job gets offered.
Yeah.
So is,
Quality is very important.
so, how I first heard about this, and I know Sarah knew you guys before me, is I got a call about a student from an Aerotec employee recruiter, and they had a long list of questions asking me about the knowledge, skills, and abilities, et cetera, of the student. And I was impressed by the questions and the level of effort that the person made. She was no nonsense. She was, she was moving through because she's got 50 calls to make that day. But she had a long list of questions, and she didn't stop until she understood it. So my guess is, what would be the scenario where, why did I get a call from Madison? So I'm guessing she wants to find the best person for the job. Is that right? So she might have called 5 people's recommendations, recommenders, and so can you pick it up from there? So how does that work with the process?
Yeah, like you hit the nail on the head. Quality is really important, and as recruiters, we're not experts on what we're recruiting on. You know what I mean? We pick things up over time as we learn, and we kind of immerse ourselves in the industries that we're recruiting with. And we learn from our clients and our candidates. They teach us things as we go along. But at the end of the day, we're not subject matter experts for what it is we're recruiting them on. That's why when we get them through the interview process with us, we go and we're going to check references. We guarantee our clients at least 2 professional references. And if you don't have a great long work history and you're coming out of college, we'll use professors, someone who could speak towards your coursework. But that is very important for us. Like, we don't like putting candidates in front of clients unless we have validated what they say they can do with references that can speak towards that.
Okay.
And if we don't have that, then we're very wary about sending that person, because at the end of the day, our reputation is online that we vetted them through the right process so that our client knows that they're getting what they pay for.